In our previous episode, we saw the younger brother, Jacob, trick his father, Isaac, into bestowing the blessing of the firstborn to him. Afterwards, his older brother, Esau, found out and he was ready to kill him, waiting for his dad to die so he could slay his brother. In order to prevent this from happening, Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau, went to Isaac, their father, and asked for Jacob to be granted a wife from the land of her fathers, the land of Abraham, the original land. So to send Jacob back so that he may acquire a wife. And that's kind of where that chapter ended off. Getting exciting. We don't know where this is going to go. So Esau, he had 2 wives. He kind of made a mistake in having more than one wife. And then he had 2 wives from Canaan, so that's not good either. 2 Hittite girls, and they were a little bit miserable and treated Rebekah pretty poorly, and she didn't really like interact with them, I wouldn't think. And Rebekah did not want the same to be for Jacob. But this is also a multi-generational thing as well. Isaac married Rebekah because Rebekah was from the land of Abraham's father. For Isaac was kind of forbidden from marrying the local women as well. So this is kind of a new generation and a new opportunity to go back to the old land and find a wife for Jacob in the same way that a wife was found for Isaac. And then I guess you go back further, and Abraham and Sarah were both from that land as well, that they didn't marry these strange women. Although I guess Abraham did marry a strange woman, the mother of Ishmael. But anyway, Genesis 28:2. Arise, go to Paddan Aram, the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take from there as a wife one of the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. So Isaac's not quite dead yet. He's still got some energy in him, and he's kind of kicking Jacob out. Arise and go to Paddan Aram, sending him back to the old land, the land that Abraham was from, the land that his wife, Rebekah, was from. Just kind of be a safe place, as well as to find a wife there. Although I don't know if he knows about the aspect of the one son wanting to kill the other one. Maybe he's just sending him there for a wife. Maybe Rebekah kind of left out that part and was just kind of pleading with him. So the dynamic of that is kind of interesting, and I wonder how that's going to play out. But there is kind of something going on there. She doesn't want him to have one of these Hittite girls around, and she wants him to be safe and not dead. So there we go. Multiple reasons. I guess there's that other aspect of this as well with the mother's brother's daughters. So that would make him like a first cousin, but it could be a multi-generational thing. So it could be like a first cousin once removed or something like that. Typically, as far as like incest goes, and people getting really messed up, it's usually marrying your cousin's not a big deal. It's when you do it again and again over multiple generations without having anything else going on that it kind of becomes problematic. At least now in like the modern day, stuff might have been a bit more flexible back then. The purity of people was probably much greater than it is now. So I don't know, maybe we're more susceptible, or it's probably one of those things that you just kind of let it be what it is and accept it for a truth and just move on and don't think about it too much, because you could really overthink this and then never get anywhere, and it's not that big of a deal. Genesis 28:3. May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and multiply you until you become a group of people. 28:4. May he give the blessing he gave to Abraham, to you and your descendants with you, that you may inherit the land he gave to Abraham, in which you are a sojourner. Isaac, knowing that he's on his way out and is sending his son away and is probably never going to get to see him again, wants to bestow him with as much blessing as he possibly can, for this is his last opportunity to probably see him. Genesis 28:5. Thus Isaac sent Jacob away. He went to Paddan Aram, to Laban, the son of Bethuel, the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, Jacob, and Esau's mother. So he sent him away, and he did go. It's pretty sad that he has to send him away, but this is what's going to be for the best in the end. Genesis 28:6. Now Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him to Paddan Arma to take him a wife from there, and that as a blessing to him he gave him a charge, saying, "You shall not take a wife of Canaan." 28:7. And that Jacob obeyed his father and his mother and had gone to Paddan Arma. So Esau saw what happened. He saw that he was forbidden from taking a wife from Canaan. He saw that his brother had to go, and he saw his brother leave in obedience to his father. Genesis 28:8. Also Esau saw that the daughters of Canaan did not please Isaac his father. Now for Esau, who is kind of that outdoorsy, kind of partying guy, kind of that extrovert, he saw that his dad wasn't happy with his selections of his wives. This was probably very painful for him, for he wanted to have that acceptance of his father and his father to bless him in what he was doing. But seeing as that his brother was forbade from taking wives from the same area, it made him realize that his father did not approve, and I'm sure this was very heartbreaking for him. Genesis 28:9. So Esau went to Ishmael and took to be his wife, in addition to the wives he already had, Mahalath, daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Neobeth. So if your father doesn't like who you've married, and you've already married two women at the same time and he didn't like either of them, obviously the solution is to just start collecting wives. Esau, the wife collector. I'm sure that's going to end well. So this is kind of interesting. He goes to get a wife from Ishmael, his brother. So it's like maybe his thought process is that he's got to marry someone that's closer to the family and not someone that's distant and just of the land or whatever. So instead of going back to Abraham's side and kind of going that direction, this is the other one. Ishmael was kind of part of the family. He was kind of kicked out or whatever, but maybe he was thinking that maybe this will be recognized a little bit better. Not really, knowing or thinking about it, that Ishmael was kind of kicked out of the family as well. So it's just, I don't know. It's kind of a weird situation, and you just kind of wonder about his thought process on there of why he decided to marry this woman from Ishmael's side. Genesis 28:10. And Jacob left Beersheba and went towards Haran. 28:11. And he came to a certain place and stayed there overnight. Because the sun was set, taking one of the stones of the place, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep. Now, I think this stone that he got, this is almost like a souvenir or something. It's like a piece of the old land, a piece of his old life, something that he could remember this from. He's going to be on a long journey. Not only does he have to get to a new location, but he's got to get married and probably stay down there for a while before he has any hope of coming back, so he doesn't get slain by his brother. So this is just going to be a long journey. And here we go. He's going to sleep on the first night. Genesis 28:12. And he dreamed that there was a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached the heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. 28:13. And behold, the Lord stood over it and beside him and said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham your forefather, and the God of Isaac. I will give to you and your descendants the land on which you are laying. So there we go. He's laying down, he falls asleep on this rock, and he's having this dream. But this is not a normal dream. This is not the standard dreams that people get. This is a spiritual message from God himself, and this is going to be a prophecy, a promise, a communication, a multifaceted, multi-dimensional interaction with the creator of the earth and the heavens and the earth. He announces who he is. I am the Lord God of Abraham your father. And then he talks of the blessings that he's going to bestow upon Jacob and his descendants. Genesis 28:14, and your offspring shall be countless as the dust or the sand of the ground, and you shall spread abroad to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south. And by you and your offspring shall all families of the earth be blessed and bless themselves. So here we go. We got that same promise to Abraham now being reiterated and passed on to Jacob. Jacob is going to be the inheritor of that blessing that he got from his father's father. Genesis 28:15, and behold, I am with you and will keep watch over you with care. Take notice of you wherever you may go, and I will bring you back to this land. For I will not leave you until I have done all of which I have told you. So Jacob has received some incredible promises by God in this dream. Genesis 28:16, and Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. I'm sure this dream or vision that Jacob received here was quite profound, and it was profound enough for him to realize its divine origin. Awaking from such a crazy and wonderful dream that it changed his perspective on existence itself. I'm sure this was quite the experience. Who is to know how much he knew of what God did for Abraham or even his father Isaac? A lot gets kind of lost in the trappings of time. So to have things kind of spelled out in plain text, so to say, for him to be able to understand it was just probably an incredible experience. Genesis 28:17, he was afraid and said, how to be feared and reverenced is this place. This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gateway to heaven. Jacob was living in a time before we had computers, games, PlayStations, books and movies and all this other fantastic stuff. So this wouldn't have been some sort of imagination that he got from exposure to something. This would have been something completely new and original. So this experience was probably transcendingly intense, which I'm sure we would, if placed in the same position, would have the same thing, same experience, but we would have more stuff to compare it to, so that would probably detract from the greatness of this. But in the purity of Jacob, this was just an all-wrenching extreme event. To receive all these promises of descendants and whatnot from an almighty being who's able to create this experience for him, I can see why he's afraid. Genesis 28:18, and Jacob rose early in the morning and took the stone that he had under his head, and he set it up for a pillar, a monument to the vision in his dream. And he poured oil on top of it in dedication. So after this extreme experience, he takes that rock that he put under his head, kind of that sentimental stone, and places it and pours oil on it in dedication to what his experience was. Genesis 28:19, and he named the place Bethel, house of God. But the name of that city was Luz at first. So I guess he was probably near Luz or something and did all of this, but he named it Bethel, and the name is going to change to that at some point. I think that's kind of what it's saying there. Genesis 28:20, then Jacob made a vow, saying, if God will be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me food to eat and clothing to wear. 28:21, so that I may come again to my father's house in peace, then the Lord shall be my God. So he's not quite ready to accept Lord as his God. He's kind of putting this task ahead of him that, if God can get him through all this, all that he kind of promises him, that he is going to accept him and he's going to build that relationship with God. Genesis 28:22, and this stone which I have set up as a pillar, a monument, shall be God's house, a sacred place to me, and of all the increase of possessions that you give me, I will give the 10th to you. So here we have Jacob. He has this crazy dream. He has this crazy experience. He has all these things kind of promised to him. Wakes up from that dream, not really knowing what's going on. Probably woke up a little bit groggy, but just blown away by the experience that he just had. So he takes that stone that he fell asleep on, he makes a monument out of it, and he makes a declaration. He makes kind of an oath or a covenant or a preceding aspect, whatever you would call that. A pre-covenant, like the one side till the other side's fulfilled. What do you call that? An offer? An offer to be completed, to be made into whole, into a deal or whatever. So he's making the kind of this thing that he is going, he's saying that he's not quite ready for it, but he's positioning himself that if God does these things, he will accept him and become, God will be his God or whatever. They'll bow down to the creator God, the one that gave him this wonderful, amazing vision. So he hasn't completely committed to it yet, but he's positioning himself that he is going to be ready for it, and he's waiting for God to kind of do an act or show some sort of miracles in his own life, and he's offering a 10% tithe to God, which we'll see later on. I guess we already saw one instance of a tithing between Abraham and Melchizedek. So this is another instance of that kind of coming up, but that situation with Melchizedek's a little bit different. Anyway, this is kind of cool. This is kind of setting something up. He hasn't, he's leaving the land, but he's going to have to come back, and that's pretty cool. Listening to this back, I kind of got thinking that, he had this crazy experience. He had this amazing vision, but he didn't immediately trust in it 100%. He wants the proof to be in the pudding, to see God act in his life and to interact with him, to have experiences in that respect, rather than just trusting in that vision, which I don't know, maybe that is the right way to do it, maybe it isn't, but it's kind of interesting to see. It really gives a lot of humanity to Jacob, and less of it being a preordained thing that, he's just acting the role or whatever. This shows a lot of humanity in him, in his actions. But I don't know. It's interesting. Also, there's an exercise machine called the Jacob's Ladder, which I think is like a climbing thing, and it kind of rotates and it keeps going, so you never really get to the top. And I think I understand where they got that idea from. A ladder to the heavens, an infinite ladder, one that you could never really climb. But that's neither here nor there.